London, England, on April 16, 1889, Charlie Chaplin's rise to fame is a true rags-to-riches story. His father, a notorious drinker, abandoned Chaplin, his mother, and his older half-brother Sidney not long after Chaplin's birth. That left Chaplin and his brother at the hands of their mother, a vaudevillian and music hall singer, Hannah, who went by the stage name Lily Harley. In a performance that would introduce her youngest boy to the spotlight, Hannah unexpectedly lost her voice in the middle of a show, prompting the production manager to push the then 5-year-old Chaplin, whom he'd heard sing, onto the stage to replace her. Chaplin lit up the audience, wowing them with his natural presence and comedic angle. At one point, he imitated his mother's crackling voice. But the episode meant the end for Hannah. Her singing voice never returned, and she eventually ran out of money. For a time, Charlie and Sidney had to make a new, temporary home for themselves in London's tough workhouses. Armed with his mother's love for the stage, Chaplin was determined to make it into show business himself. And in 1797, using his mother's contacts, landed him with a dancing troupe named the 8 Lancashire Lads. It was a short stint and not a terribly profitable one, forcing the go-getter Chaplin to make ends meet any way he could. I was a newsvendor, printer, toy maker, doctor's boy, etc. But during these occupational digressions, I never lost sight of my ultimate aim to become an actor, Chaplin later recounted. So, between jobs, I would polish my shoes, brush my clothes, put on a clean collar, and make periodic calls to the theatrical agencies. Eventually, other stage work did come his way, and Chaplin made his acting debut as the page boy in a production of Sherlock Holmes. From there, he toured with a vaudeville outfit named Casey's Court Circus, and in 1908 teamed with the Fred Carnot pantomime troupe, where Chaplin became one of its stars as the drunk in the comedic sketch A Night in the English Music Hall. With the Carnot troupe, Chaplin got his first taste for the United States, where he caught the eye of a film producer, Mack Sennett, who signed Chaplin to a contract for $150 a week. The pace of filmmaking in early Hollywood seems impossible by today's standards. In just 2 months, Chaplin appeared in the following Keystone films: Making a Living, Kid Auto Races at Venice, Mabel's Strange Predicament, Between Showers, A Film Johnny, Tango Tangles, His Favorite Pastime, and Cruel, Cruel Love. Though Charlie Chaplin started at Keystone as a company bit player, with the introduction of his world-famous The Tramp character, he quickly exploded into a major star. By April, at the age of 25, Charlie Chaplin directs his first film, 20 Minutes of Love. By November of that year, Chaplin left Keystone, having signed an exclusive contract with the newly formed Essanay Film Company. In 1915, Chaplin began work for Essanay, with greater control over his films than ever before, but not enough to avoid creative differences with his boss. However, another milestone occurs at the same time. He meets Edna Providence, who would be his leading lady for many of his films, as well as an on-again, off-again romance. At Essanay, Charlie Chaplin created some of his classic short films that he's best remembered for today. These include His New Job, The Jitney Elopement, The Tramp, A Night at the Show, and The Immigrant. In February of 1916, Charlie Chaplin again jumped to another film company, Mutual, where he continues to create some of his finest shorts that include The Floorwalker, The Vagabond, The Pawn Shop, Behind the Screen, and The Rink. In both his personal and professional life, his inner circle began to expand. He first hired Henry Bergman, who would be the heavy villain in many of Charlie Chaplin's films, as well as hiring Tom Harrington as his personal secretary, a position that he would keep for many decades, becoming Charlie Chaplin's right-hand man in many respects. It was also at Mutual that he first hired Eric Kimball, the gentle giant that was his on-screen nemesis and personal friend, who co-starred in 11 out of his 12 Mutual films. Desiring even more control, Chaplin began building his own company, and in the fall of 1917 signed with yet another film studio, First National, For the first time, Charlie Chaplin had complete control over every step of his films. Sadly, Eric Campbell died in a car accident, causing Chaplin's style of comedy to change, being centered more around Chaplin himself. For First National, Chaplin created some of his classic shorts that includes A Dog's Life, Shoulder Arms, and The Bond. 1919 was a year of both personal gains and losses for Chaplin. One of his most popular short films, Sunnyside, is released, demonstrating a degree of both pathos and comedy mixed together to a high degree. Charlie Chaplin had been slowly moving the tramp character toward this more balanced characterization for some time, and now Chaplin's The Tramp is maturing. Sadly, Charlie the Human is suffering from a terrible loss, as he and his wife's infant child is born, horribly disformed and dying only after 3 days. Charlie Chaplin sought solace in his work, alienating his wife even more. In that year, he formed United Artists with his close friend Douglas Fairbanks and Fairbanks' wife, screen legend Mary Pickford. In its successful effort to keep major film companies from monopolizing and controlling all aspects of production. In December of that year, A Day's Pleasure is released, dealing with a happy family trying to enjoy a quiet day at the beach, somewhat ironically considering the state of Charlie Chaplin's personal life at this time. But something new was on the horizon. Charlie Chaplin had begun the production of The Kid. The Kid was Chaplin's first full-length film. It, more than anything else to date, made Charlie Chaplin a living legend. It took over a year to produce and was an incredible success for Chaplin, both financially and artistically. Charlie Chaplin was an unconventional perfectionist whose meticulousness was wholly focused on creating and sustaining an emotional pitch. The best examples comes from the end of City Lights, a sublime short/reverse shot that cuts back and forth between the flower girl and the tramp. In a testament to what critic David Kerr once called Chaplin's ability to turn fragments into emotional wholes, the scene is engrossing and both deeply moving. Yet there is zero continuity between the two angles. In the hands of most filmmakers, it would seem disjointed, but the way of Chaplin's reaction, a slow, half-embarrassed smile that he cover-ups with his hands, he plays off his co-stars and creates a sense of emotional continuity that makes technical continuity irrelevant. Chaplin used film and comedy to create something that transcended both. His best gags move. They operate at a level that is deeper than humor. And the Gold Rush's iconic Oceana roll endures not only because it's funny, like much of Chaplin's comedy, easy to replicate, but also because of his face, which is concentrated during the performance, but breaks into a boyish laugh when he's done. He captures the feeling of wanting to perform. It lasts because it's built to. Chaplin's slapstick acrobatics made him famous, but the subtleties of his acting made him great. While Harold Lloyd played Daredevil hanging from clocks, and Buster Keaton maneuvered through surreal and complex situations, Chaplin concerned himself with improvisation. For Chaplin, the best way to locate humor or pathos of a situation was to create an environment and to walk around in it until something natural happened. Though Chaplin is of the silent movie era, we see his achievements carried through in films today. With the advent of full-length talkies, the need for more subtle acting became apparent. To maintain the audience's attention throughout a six-reel film, an actor needed to move beyond constant slapstick. Chaplin had demanded this depth long before anyone else. His rigor and concern for the progress of acting and directing made his films both great and led the way to the new, more sophisticated cinema.